Taemin stared at the massive screen in front of him. The holographic display showed the entire galaxy, with thousands of bright dots marking different worlds and civilizations. Trade routes glowed like golden threads connecting one system to another. He had seen this map countless times before, but today something bothered him. The Galactic Council building hummed with activity around him. Beings from dozens of different worlds walked through the corridors. Some looked like tall, thin trees with silver bark. Others moved like flowing water in clear containers. A few glowed with their own inner light, leaving trails of sparkles. In the air behind them, Taemin was from the Zephyrian Alliance, one of the older civilizations in the galaxy. His people had been exploring space for over 3,000 years. They knew almost every corner of the galaxy, or so they thought. "Still looking at that map?" asked a voice behind him. Taemin turned to see Unbi approaching. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. Her job was to understand all the different creatures that lived among the stars. She carried a small device that beeped and clicked as it recorded data about every being she passed. "There's something wrong with this map," Taemin said, pointing at the display. "Look at this section here." Yunbi moved closer and followed his finger. The map showed 47 different sectors, each one filled with detailed information. There were mining colonies, research stations, diplomatic outposts, and bustling trade centers. Every sector told a story of civilization and progress, except for one. Sector 48 sat at the edge of the map like a gray shadow. Inside it, there was almost nothing. No trade routes, no diplomatic markers, no research stations, just a single label that read, "Human Territory, Silent Zone, No Contact Established." "The humans," Yunbi said softly. "I've been studying them for years." "What do you know about them?" Taemin asked. Yunbi activated her device and pulled up a file. Images appeared in the air between them. They showed creatures that looked somewhat like Taemin's people, but shorter and with less graceful features. Their skin came in different shades of brown and pink. Their hair grew in various colors and styles. They appeared about 200 years ago, Yunbi explained. One day, our long-range sensors detected new ships in that sector. The ships were crude compared to ours, but they moved fast. Within a few months, they had claimed that entire region of space. And then what happened? Nothing, Unbi said. That's what makes them so strange. Most new civilizations are eager to make contact. They want to trade, learn, share technology. Some are aggressive and want to fight. Others are shy and need careful approach. But the humans, they just went quiet. Taemin studied the images more carefully. The human ships looked basic, almost primitive. They were made of metal and moved using simple rocket engines. Compared to the elegant crystal ships of the Vorthak or the living vessels grown by the Malari, human technology seemed crude. "Have we tried to contact them?" he asked. "Many times," Yunbi replied. "The Council has sent dozens of messages. We've used every form of communication we know, radio waves, quantum entanglement, psychic projection, even simple light patterns. We've tried speaking in every language in the galactic database." And their response? Silence. Complete silence. A group of luminant beings floated past them, their bodies glowing like small suns. One of them noticed their conversation and drifted over. When Luminant spoke, their light flickered in patterns that created words. "Are you discussing the human mystery?" the Luminant asked, its glow shifting to curious blue-green colors. "Yes," Taemin said. "Have your people had any contact with them?" "None," the Luminant replied. "We sent a delegation 50 years ago. Our ships approached their border and something very strange happened. All our instruments stopped working, not damaged, just quiet. We had to retreat." Yunbi nodded. "The same thing happened to a Vorthak exploration team and a Malari research vessel. Every species that gets too close to human space reports the same thing. Their technology simply stops functioning." "Maybe the humans have some kind of defense system," Taemin suggested. "Maybe," Yunbi said. "Or maybe they just don't want visitors." The Luminant's glow shifted to orange, which meant it was thinking deeply. "There's something else," it said. "Our long-range scanners sometimes detect energy signatures from their territory. Very faint, but unlike anything we've seen before. What kind of energy? Taemin asked. We don't know. It doesn't match any known technology. It's almost like they're using principles of physics that we haven't discovered yet. This statement troubled Taemin. The galactic civilizations had been sharing knowledge for thousands of years. They had mapped the laws of physics, understood the nature of space and time, and mastered the art of faster-than-light travel. The idea that a young civilization might know something they didn't was difficult to accept. Could they be more advanced than we thought? He asked. Yunbi's expression grew thoughtful. It's possible. We assume they're primitive because their early ships looked simple. But maybe that was intentional. Maybe they didn't want us to know what they were really capable of. The luminance glow turned red, which indicated alarm. You think they're hiding their true abilities? I think we need to find out, Taemin said. He looked back at the map, studying the empty gray space that marked human territory. 200 years of silence is long enough. The Council needs to know who these humans really are. Over the next few days, Taemin researched everything the Council had about humans. The files were surprisingly thin. Most of what they knew came from those first few months when human ships had appeared. After that, there were only failed contact attempts and strange sensor readings. He learned that humans had originally come from a small planet in the outer rim of the galaxy. The planet was mostly water, with large land masses covered in plants and animals. It seemed like a normal world, nothing special about it. But the humans themselves were puzzling. They were carbon-based life forms, similar to many other species. They had 2 legs, 2 arms, and 1 head. Their brains were reasonably large, but not exceptional. There was nothing in their biology that suggested they should be more advanced than other civilizations. Yet they had achieved space travel relatively quickly. Most civilizations took thousands of years to develop faster-than-light technology. The humans had done it in just a few centuries after discovering fire. There's something we're missing, Taemin told Yunbi during one of their research sessions. The pieces don't fit together. What do you mean? Look at this data, he said, pointing to various files. The humans appear to be a normal, perhaps slightly below average civilization. But they've claimed a huge section of space and successfully kept everyone out for 2 centuries. How does a primitive species accomplish that? Yunbi was quiet for a moment. Maybe they're not primitive, she said finally. Maybe we've been looking at this all wrong. That afternoon, Taemin requested a meeting with the council leadership. The council chamber was a massive dome where representatives from all major civilizations gathered. Beings of every shape and size floated, crawled, or walked to their designated areas. Taemin stood at the central podium and activated the display system. The galactic map appeared above him, with Sector 48 highlighted in red. Honored members of the Council, he began, I propose that we send an official delegation to make contact with the human civilization. A murmur went through the chamber. Several beings voiced objections. We've tried many times, called out a Vorthak representative, its crystalline body chiming like bells. They clearly don't want contact. Perhaps they're protecting something, suggested a Malari delegate, its aquatic form rippling with concern. Some civilizations prefer isolation. Or perhaps, Taemin said, they're protecting us. The chamber fell silent. This was a new idea, one that no one had considered before. Think about it, Taemin continued. A civilization that can keep everyone out for 200 years, that can disable our technology without damaging it. That shows energy signatures we don't understand. What if their silence isn't hostility or fear? What if it's something else entirely? The council members looked at each other with uncertainty. The idea that humans might be more advanced than the rest of the galaxy was difficult to accept. I volunteer to lead this delegation, Taemin announced. We need to know the truth about the humans for the safety of the entire galaxy. After much debate, the council agreed. They would send one more diplomatic mission to human space. But this time, they would not turn back at the first sign of trouble. They would push forward until they got answers. Taemin felt both excited and nervous as he left the council chamber. Soon he would be traveling into the unknown, toward a civilization that had remained silent for 2 centuries. He had no idea what he would find there. but he knew that the galaxy needed to know the truth about the humans. Whatever they were hiding in that gray space on the map, it was time to discover it. So Young checked her equipment one more time. As the galaxy's best first contact specialist, she had met over 30 different alien civilizations. Each encounter required careful preparation and deep understanding of cultural differences. But the humans would be different. No one knew what to expect from them. The diplomatic ship Harmony's Call was the most advanced vessel the Council could provide. Its hull was made from Vorthak crystal that could bend light around it. Its engines used Malari biotechnology that could travel faster than most military ships. The communication systems included every known method of contact in the galaxy. Captain Dongwu sat in the pilot's chair studying the navigation charts. He was one of the finest pilots in the galaxy, with experience flying near dangerous phenomena like black holes and stellar storms. Even he seemed nervous about this mission. "How close are we to the human border?" So Young asked. "About 6 hours at current speed," Dongwu replied. "But I'm starting to see some strange readings on the sensors." Wu Jin looked up from his sensor station. He was young for such an important mission, but his ability to read sensor data was legendary among his people. His fingers moved quickly over the controls as numbers and charts appeared on his screen. "Captain, I'm detecting something unusual," Wu Jin said. "Space itself seems different ahead of us." "Different how?" So Young asked, moving to look at his readings. "The gravitational fields aren't natural," Wu Jin explained. "I'm seeing patterns that shouldn't exist. It's like someone has been changing the structure of space itself." Jean A., the cultural expert, floated over to join them. Her species communicated through color changes in their skin, but she had learned to speak in standard galactic languages. Her job was to understand alien cultures and help prevent misunderstandings during first contact. "Could this be a natural phenomenon?" Jinny asked. "No," Wu Jin said firmly. "These patterns are too regular, too planned. Someone made these changes on purpose." Captain Dongwu adjusted their course slightly. "How big an area are we talking about?" Wu Jin's eyes grew wide as he read the data. "Captain, these modifications appear to extend throughout the entire human territory. We are looking at changes to space-time that cover hundreds of solar systems." The crew fell silent. Modifying space on such a massive scale required technology far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. Even the most advanced civilizations could only make small temporary changes to local gravity fields. "Maybe we should turn back," suggested Yan Ho, the ship's engineer. "If they can do this to space itself, what could they do to us?" "No," So Young said. "We came here to make contact, and that's what we're going to do. But everyone stay alert." As they continued toward the human border, the sensor readings became more and more unusual. Wu Jin reported detecting structures that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Energy flows that traveled in directions that shouldn't exist. Gravitational waves that formed complex patterns instead of natural fluctuations. "It's like looking at art," Wu Jin said softly. "Someone has turned space itself into a work of art." They crossed the invisible line that marked the beginning of human territory without any fanfare. There were no warning signals, no border guards, no challenges. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Then their communication systems went dead. "Captain," called out Min Su from the communication station. "I've lost contact with Council headquarters. All quantum entanglement links have been severed." "What about emergency backup channels?" Dongwu asked. "Nothing. It's like the rest of the galaxy just stopped existing." So Young felt a chill run through her body. Being cut off from the galaxy meant they were truly alone in human space. If something happened to them, no one would know. "Sensors are still working," Wu Jin reported. "And I'm starting to detect—" "Wait, Captain. You need to see this." The main screen activated, showing a long-range scan of the space ahead. What they saw made everyone gasp. The emptiness they expected wasn't there. Instead, human space was filled with structures unlike anything in the galaxy. Massive geometric shapes floated in the void, connected by streams of energy that bent and twisted through dimensions. Some structures were larger than planets, others stretched across light years. "Those can't be natural," Jin-A whispered. "They're not," Wu Jin confirmed. "I'm reading artificial materials, controlled energy flows, and gravitational manipulation on a scale I didn't think was possible." How many structures are there? So Young asked. Wu Jin worked for several minutes, his hands flying over the controls. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. They're everywhere, Captain. Human space isn't empty at all. It's full of cities. Cities in space? More than that. These structures seem to exist partially outside normal three-dimensional space. They're bigger on the inside than the outside. Much bigger. Captain Dongwu stared at the display. How is that possible? I don't know, Wu Jin admitted. The physics don't make sense. It's like they've learned to fold space-time to create more room inside their structures. As they moved deeper into human territory, more details became visible. The structures weren't random. They were connected in complex patterns, with energy flowing between them like blood through veins. Some structures rotated slowly, others pulsed with internal light. Are we detecting any life signs? So Young asked. The sensors can't penetrate those structures, Wu Jin replied. Whatever they're made of blocks most of our scanning attempts. Suddenly, every screen on the ship flickered. New information began downloading directly into their computer systems. Text appeared in perfect galactic standard language. Delegation from the Galactic Council. Your arrival has been noted. You have traveled far to reach us. Follow the navigation beacon to coordinates 127.4, 891.2, 445.7. You will be met there. The message was simple and direct. No threats, no demands, just instructions. They know we're here, Dongwu said. They've known since we crossed the border, So Young realized. Probably longer. That's why our communications were cut off so. Precisely. Should we follow their instructions? Asked Jin-A. So Young considered their options. They could turn back, but that would mean returning to the galaxy with no answers. They could try to explore on their own, but the humans clearly had technology far beyond their understanding. Or they could trust the humans and follow the beacon. We came here to make contact, she decided. Set course for those coordinates. The journey to the meeting point took them past several of the massive structures. Up close, they were even more impressive. The hull of one structure seemed to be made of crystallized space itself, bending light in impossible ways. Another appeared to be constructed from pure energy, held together by gravitational fields. How long would it take to build something like this? Jin-A wondered. With our technology? Centuries, Yan-Ho replied. Maybe longer. But the humans have only been in space for a few hundred years, So Young pointed out. Maybe they haven't, Wu Jin suggested quietly. Maybe they've been out here longer than we think. As they approached the designated coordinates, a new structure came into view. This one was different from the others. Instead of the geometric shapes they had seen before, this structure looked almost organic. It curved and flowed like a living thing, but was clearly artificial. I'm reading docking facilities, Wu Jin reported. They're adapting to our ship design as we watch. Sure enough, the structure was changing shape, creating a docking port that perfectly matched their ship's configuration. It was as if the humans had scanned their vessel and rebuilt their station to accommodate it. Incredible, breathed Dongwu. They're reshaping matter in real time. A new message appeared on their screens. Please dock at Base 7. Atmospheric and gravitational conditions will be adjusted for your comfort. Welcome to human space. As Captain Dongwu guided their ship into the docking bay, So Young felt her heart racing. After 2 centuries of silence, they were finally going to meet the humans face to face. She had no idea what to expect. The docking process was smoother than anything she had experienced. The human technology seemed to anticipate their needs, adjusting everything automatically. When the airlock sealed, their sensors confirmed that the atmosphere beyond was perfectly suited for their diverse crew. Atmospheric pressure optimal, reported Yan-Ho. Temperature comfortable for all species aboard. They've even adjusted the gravity to match our ship's settings. How did they know what we needed? Jin-A asked. They've been studying us, So Young realized. For much longer than we've been studying them. The airlock opened, revealing a corridor that stretched into the structure beyond. The walls seemed to be made of the same crystallized space they had seen on the exterior, creating an almost dreamlike environment where light bent and flowed in patterns. Well, So Young said, taking a deep breath, let's go meet the humans. As they stepped off their ship, each crew member felt the weight of history. They were about to become the first galactic citizens to make contact with the mysterious human civilization. Whatever they learned here would change the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. The corridor led them deeper into the structure, past rooms and chambers that defied easy description. Some spaces seemed infinite, while others felt cozy and enclosed. The technology around them was beautiful and alien, unlike anything in their database. Finally, they reached Ayeli. The three humans waiting in the chamber looked ordinary at first glance. They stood on two legs, had two arms and one head, just like the images in the galactic database. But as So Young and her team drew closer, they noticed details that made them seem far from ordinary. The first human was a woman who introduced herself as Luna. She was tall and had dark hair that seemed to catch and reflect light in unusual ways. When she moved, the space around her seemed to shimmer slightly, as if reality bent just a little to accommodate her presence. The second human was a man named David. He appeared younger than Luna, with bright eyes that seemed to see everything at once. When he gestured, small sparkles of energy followed his movements, leaving brief trails of light in the air. The third human was called Kai. This person's gender was not immediately clear, and their appearance seemed to shift slightly when no one was looking directly at them. They stood perfectly still, but gave the impression of containing vast amounts of barely controlled energy. "Welcome to human space," Luna said in perfect galactic standard language. "We have been expecting you." So, Young stepped forward, following diplomatic protocol. "I am So Young, representing the Galactic Council. We come in peace, seeking to establish contact between our civilizations." "We know who you are," David replied with a slight smile. "We know all of you. Wu Jin from the Sensor Guild, Captain Dongwu of the Navigation Corps, Jin-A the Cultural Analyst, and the others. We have been watching your careers with interest." This statement shocked the delegation. The humans not only knew they were coming, but had detailed knowledge of each crew member's background and achievements. "How do you know so much about us?" Jin-A asked, her skin flickering with nervous colors. "Because we have been listening," Kai said in a voice that seemed to come from multiple directions at once. "For 200 years, we have monitored every transmission, every communication, every piece of data that flows through galactic space. We know your languages, your customs, your technologies, your histories. But you never responded to our messages," Captain Dongwu said. "No," Luna agreed. "We chose silence, but not because we were afraid or hostile. We remained silent because we were learning and because we were preparing." "Preparing for what?" So Young asked. The three humans exchanged glances. David gestured toward a wall, which suddenly became transparent, revealing a view of space beyond the station. But this wasn't the space they had traveled through. This was something else entirely. "Before we answer that question," Luna said, "you need to understand what you're really looking at." The view showed them human space from a new perspective. What they had thought were individual structures floating in the void were actually connected, parts of a vast network. Energy flowed between them in complex patterns, creating a web that spanned entire solar systems. "What we showed you on your journey here was just the surface," David explained. "Human civilization doesn't exist in normal three-dimensional space. We have learned to build in folded dimensions, to create structures that are larger inside than outside, to manipulate the fabric of space-time itself." Yunwu, the expedition's physicist, stared at the display in disbelief. "That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be enormous. How do you power something like this?" Kai stepped forward, and as they did, the air around them shimmered with barely visible patterns. "We power it with the universe itself. We have learned to tap into the fundamental forces that hold reality together. Gravity, time, space, matter, energy. These are not obstacles to us. They are tools." "How long have you possessed this technology?" So Young asked. "We began developing it shortly after we achieved spaceflight," Luna replied. "Your records show that we appeared in this region 200 years ago. What they don't show is that we had been preparing for space travel for much longer than you realized." "Our species learns quickly," David added. "Perhaps more quickly than most. We went from discovering fire to splitting the atom in just a few thousand years. From splitting the atom to reshaping space-time took only a few centuries. More! The implications of this revelation were staggering. The galactic civilizations had assumed that technological development followed predictable patterns. Most species took thousands of years to progress from basic space flight to advanced technology. The humans had compressed that timeline to mere centuries. But why remain hidden? Jin'e asked. Why not join the galactic community? Think of what we could have learned from each other. The three humans grew serious. Luna touched the wall again, and the view changed. Now they were looking at deep space, far beyond the galaxy's edge. At first, the crew saw nothing unusual. Then Kai pointed to a section of the display. Look more carefully, Kai said. Use your enhanced sensors. Wu Jin activated his handheld scanner and focused on the area Kai indicated. After a moment, his face went pale. There's something out there. Something big. Not just big, David corrected. Something hostile. The display zoomed in, revealing what appeared to be a massive fleet of ships moving through the void between galaxies. But these weren't ships like anything in the galactic database. They were dark, angular things that seemed to absorb light, rather than reflect it. Who are they? Captain Dongwu asked. We call them the Devourers, Luna replied. They are an ancient civilization that has been moving through the universe for millions of years. They consume entire galaxies, stripping them of resources and life before moving on to the next. How do you know about them? So Young asked. Because Earth's position on the galactic rim gave us a unique perspective, David explained. Our early deep space telescopes detected evidence of galaxies that had simply vanished. At first, we thought it was a natural phenomenon. Then we realized the disappearances followed a pattern. Kai manipulated the display, showing a map of local galactic clusters. Red marks indicated galaxies that had gone dark over the past million years. The pattern was clear. The Devourers were moving in a straight line toward their galaxy. They're coming here, Hyunwoo whispered. Yes, Luna confirmed. Our calculations show they will reach the outer edge of our galaxy in approximately 37 years. Why didn't you warn the galactic community? So Young demanded. Would they have believed us? David asked. A primitive species claiming that an ancient enemy was approaching? Would the proud civilizations of the galaxy have taken advice from humans they considered barely capable of spaceflight? So Young had to admit he was right. The galactic civilizations were ancient and proud. They would not have easily accepted warnings from a species they considered inferior. So instead, you prepared in secret, Jin'e realized. We did more than prepare, Kai said. We became ready. Everything you see around you, the modified space-time, the dimensional structures, the energy networks, all of it was designed for one purpose, to defend this galaxy against the Devourers. How can you be sure your defenses will work? Captain Dongwu asked. Because we've been testing them, Luna replied. The Devourers send scout ships ahead of their main fleet. We've encountered several over the past 50 years. They never returned to report what they found. The crew exchanged shocked looks. The humans had been fighting a secret war for decades, and no one in the galaxy knew about it. Show them the captures, David suggested. Kai touched a control surface, and new images appeared. These showed massive alien ships held in what appeared to be bubbles of twisted space-time. The ships were clearly not from any known civilization. They were organic-looking, covered in spines and tendrils, and seemed to pulse with malevolent life. We don't destroy the scout ships, Luna explained. We capture them, study them, learn from them. Each one teaches us more about what we'll face when the main fleet arrives. The scouts are sent to evaluate the defenses of target galaxies, David added. They look for weaknesses, count military assets, assess technological capabilities. When they don't return, the main fleet assumes the galaxy is either empty or too weak to pose a threat. But you're not weak, So Young said, understanding dawning on her. No, Kai replied. We are not weak, and when the Devourers arrive, they will find a galaxy that is ready for them. What do you need from us? So Young asked. Trust, Luna said. Simply. The galactic civilizations need to trust us to protect them. They need to follow our strategies and accept our guidance. We know it's difficult for proud ancient races to submit to the leadership of a young species, but it's the only way to survive what's coming. Some of them won't listen, Jin'e warned. Some will refuse to believe the threat is real. We know, David said sadly. That's why we've been preparing contingencies. We can protect those who are willing to be protected. The others? We'll do what we can, but we can't save those who won't let us help them. The chamber fell silent as the delegation absorbed this information. Everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. This wasn't a primitive species hiding from galactic civilization. This was an advanced race that had been secretly protecting everyone for 2 centuries. There's something else you should see, Kai said. Before you return to the council, you need to understand the full scope of what we've built. The floor, beneath their feet, became transparent, revealing the structure extending far below them. But instead of mechanical rooms and equipment, they saw something that defied Des. Luna led the delegation through corridors that defied understanding. Each step took them deeper into human technology that seemed more like magic than science. The walls around them pulsed with gentle light, and So Young noticed that the corridor was actually expanding as they walked, creating more space to accommodate their group. "Where are you taking us?" Captain Dongwu asked. "To see the truth," Luna replied. "To understand why we made the choices we did." They arrived at what Luna called an observation facility. But when the doors opened, the crew found themselves in a space that couldn't possibly fit inside the station they had docked with. The chamber stretched in all directions farther than they could see, filled with equipment that hummed with power. "This is impossible," Hyunwoo whispered, checking his instruments. "This room is bigger than your entire station." "Space is relative," said a new voice. They turned to see another human approaching. This one introduced himself as Minho, and he moved with the casual confidence of someone who understood the deepest secrets of the universe. "Time is relative, too," added another human who appeared beside him. This was Yeon-Su, a woman whose eyes seemed to contain swirling galaxies. "When you learn to manipulate both space and time, you can create rooms like this." Minho gestured to the equipment around them. "This facility exists in 11 dimensions simultaneously. We can observe events across vast distances of space and time. Would you like to see how we discovered the Devourers?" Before anyone could answer, the air in front of them shimmered and became filled with images. They were seeing space from a perspective that no normal telescope could provide. Stars and galaxies stretched out in all directions, but something was wrong with the picture. "This is what our early observations showed us," Yeon-Su explained. "Galaxies going dark one by one, following a pattern that moved across the universe like a plague." The images changed, showing the same region of space at different time periods. Over millions of years, bright galaxies faded to black in a systematic progression. The pattern was too regular to be natural disaster or stellar evolution. "At first, we thought we were seeing some kind of cosmic phenomenon," Minho continued. "A wave of dark matter, perhaps, or some unknown form of stellar death. But then we developed better sensors. New images appeared, these ones showing details that made the crew gasp. The dark galaxies weren't empty. They were full of ships, countless millions of them, all dark and angular, moving like a swarm of mechanical insects. "The Devourers," Luna said simply. "They don't just destroy civilizations. They consume entire galaxies, stripping them of all matter and energy before moving on." "How do they do it?" Jin'e asked, her skin flickering with horrified colors. "They have weapons that can destabilize stars," Yeon-Su replied. "Technology that can break apart planets and harvest their materials. But their most dangerous ability is their numbers. Each galaxy they consume provides resources to build more ships, more weapons, more Devourers." The images showed the process in terrible detail. Devourer fleets would surround star systems and systematically dismantle them. Planets were broken apart and their materials fed into massive construction ships. Stars were drained of their energy and left as cold, dead husks. "How many galaxies have they destroyed?" Captain Dongwu asked quietly. "In this local cluster alone?" 47, Minho answered. "Across the observable universe? We estimate millions." The crew stood in stunned silence. The scope of destruction was beyond anything they could comprehend. Entire civilizations, entire galaxies, reduced to nothing more than fuel for the Devourer war machine. "When did you realize they were coming here?" So Young asked. 38 years ago," Yansu replied. We detected the first scouts entering the outer reaches of our galaxy. That's when we knew we had run out of time for preparation. But you've been preparing for 200 years, Hyunwoo protested. Yes, Luna said, because we saw the signs much earlier. The pattern of galactic destruction was clear to anyone who knew how to look for it. We realized that eventually the Devourers would reach us. Minho manipulated the display, showing their own galaxy from the outside. Red dots marked the locations where Devourer scouts had been detected over the past few decades. There were more than the crew had expected, dozens of incursions, all of them stopped before they could report back. Each scout ship we capture teaches us more about their technology, Yansu explained. We've learned to copy some of their weapons, to understand their communication methods, to predict their strategies. Show them the captures, Luna suggested. The display changed to show a series of chambers deep within the facility. Each chamber contained what appeared to be a bubble of distorted space-time, and inside each bubble was a Devourer ship. The ships were even more alien up close. Organic-looking vessels covered in spines and tentacles, pulsing with sickly bioluminescence. We don't just capture the ships, Minho said. We capture their crews as well. New images showed the Devourers themselves. They were nightmare creatures, part machine, part organic horror. Their bodies were covered in metallic armor that seemed to be grafted directly onto their flesh. Multiple arms ended in various tools and weapons. Their faces, if they could be called faces, were collections of sensors and feeding apparatus. They're not born, Yansu explained. They're made. Each Devourer starts as some other species that they've captured and converted. The conversion process turns them into living weapons, completely devoted to the consumption of galaxies. That's monstrous, Jin'e whispered. Yes, Luna agreed. And that's why we can't let them reach the populated areas of the galaxy. Every civilization they encounter becomes more fuel for their war machine. The display changed again, showing tactical analyses of Devourer technology. Their ships were fast, heavily armed, and capable of self-repair. Their weapons could destroy planets or convert captured materials into new ships. Most terrifying of all, they seemed to learn and adapt quickly to new threats. How can you possibly fight something like this? Captain Dongwu asked. By being smarter than they are, Minho replied. The Devourers are powerful, but they're not creative. They use the same strategies over and over again because those strategies have worked for millions of years. But they've never encountered anything like us before, Yansu added with a slight smile. What makes humans different? So Young asked. We adapt faster than they do, Luna explained. Most civilizations develop along predictable lines. They follow similar technological paths, make similar discoveries, build similar defenses. The Devourers have learned to counter all of those standard approaches. But humans don't follow standard approaches, Minho continued. We think differently. We take risks other species won't take. We develop technologies in unexpected directions. Like what? Hyunwoo asked. Yeonsu gestured to the space around them. Like dimensional engineering. Most civilizations use space-time as it naturally exists. We reshape it to suit our needs. The Devourers have weapons designed to destroy conventional structures, but they've never faced an enemy that exists partially outside normal reality. We've also developed weapons they can't prepare for, Minho added. Technologies based on principles they don't understand. Such as weapons that attack through folded space, Luna replied. Defenses that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Ships that can phase in and out of reality. The display showed examples of human military technology. Ships that flickered between visible and invisible states. Weapons that fired projectiles through dimensional portals, allowing them to bypass shields and armor entirely. Defense systems that could hide entire planets by folding them into pocket dimensions. This is incredible, Hyunwoo said. How did you develop all of this so quickly? Because we had to, Yeonsu replied simply. When you know that extinction is coming, you become very motivated to find solutions. The other galactic civilizations don't know any of this exists, Minho added. They think we're primitive because we want them to think that. It's easier to protect someone when they don't know they need protection. But now you're telling us, So Young pointed out. Because time is running out, Luna said seriously. The main Devourer fleet will arrive soon. We can handle the advanced forces on our own, but when the full invasion begins, we'll need the cooperation of every civilization in the galaxy. What kind of cooperation? Jin'e asked. Trust, mainly, Yansu replied. We need them to follow our evacuation plans, to accept our protection, to not interfere with our operations. Some of the civilizations are very proud, Captain Dongwu warned. They won't easily accept human leadership. We know, Minho said sadly. That's the tragedy of this situation. We've spent 2 centuries developing the technology to save the galaxy, but we might not be able to save everyone because of politics and pride. The display changed to show evacuation scenarios. Human technology could create pocket dimensions large enough to house entire civilizations during the invasion, but the process required cooperation from the refugees. We can protect billions of beings, Luna explained, but only if they're willing to be protected. We can't force salvation on anyone. What about the ones who refuse? So Young asked. 3 humans exchanged glances. When Yonsu spoke, her voice was heavy with sadness. We'll do everything we can to shield them. The next destination surprised the delegation even more than the observation facility. Luna led them through a portal that opened directly in the wall of the chamber. One step took them from the research station to somewhere completely different. They found themselves standing on what appeared to be the surface of a planet, but the sky above them was filled with stars that moved in patterns no natural sky could produce. The landscape around them stretched to impossible horizons, covered with structures that defied every law of physics the crew understood. Welcome to our primary military installation, Luna announced. Though calling it an installation doesn't really capture what it is. A new human approached them. This one introduced himself as Jae-hyun, and everything about him suggested military command. He moved with precise efficiency, and his eyes constantly scanned their surroundings as if watching for threats that only he could see. How many beings does this place hold? Captain Dongwu asked, looking at the vast structures around them. It doesn't hold beings, Jae-hyun replied. It holds possibilities. This space exists outside normal dimensions, so it can be as large or small as we need it to be. I don't understand, Hyunwoo said. Think of it as a weapon that exists in multiple realities at once, Luna explained. We can deploy it anywhere in the galaxy instantly, or we can use it to strike at targets that exist in different dimensions. As they walked through the facility, the crew saw technology that made everything else they had witnessed seem simple by comparison. Ships floated in the air without any visible means of support. Weapons fired beams of energy that bent through impossible angles. Soldiers trained with equipment that allowed them to practice fighting in multiple dimensions simultaneously. These are our rapid response forces, Jae-hyun explained as they passed a group of human soldiers. They can deploy to any point in the galaxy within minutes and fight in environments that would destroy conventional forces. The soldiers themselves looked human, but their equipment was clearly far beyond anything the galactic civilizations possessed. Their armor seemed to shift and adapt to different threats automatically. Their weapons could apparently fire through dimensional barriers, allowing them to attack enemies that were hiding behind shields or in other realities. How many soldiers do you have? So Young asked. That's not really the right question, Jae-hyun replied. In conventional space, we have about 50 million trained fighters, but in folded dimensions, we can multiply that number as needed. What does that mean? It means we can take one soldier and place copies of them in multiple realities simultaneously, Luna explained. So one human fighter can engage dozens of enemies in different dimensions at the same time. The implications of this were staggering. Humanity hadn't just developed advanced technology, they had learned to break the fundamental rules that governed warfare. They could be in multiple places at once, attack from directions that didn't exist, and defend positions using dimensions their enemies couldn't even perceive. Show them the fleet, Jae-hyun suggested. They walked to what appeared to be the edge of the facility, where a massive viewing area looked out into space. But this wasn't normal space. This was a pocket dimension, filled with ships unlike anything the crew had ever imagined. The vessels didn't follow conventional designs. Some were geometric shapes that rotated through multiple dimensions. Others appeared to be made of crystallized time, shifting between past and future configurations. A few looked like they were constructed from pure mathematics, their forms defined by equations rather than matter. These ships can strike from dimensions the Devourers can't defend against, Jae-hyun explained. They can appear inside enemy vessels, fire weapons that ignore shields and armor, and disappear before the enemy can retaliate. How many ships do you have? Captain Dongwoo asked. In normal space, about 10,000, Jae-hyun replied. In dimensional space, as many as we need. Na-young appeared beside them as if she had materialized from thin air. She introduced herself as the strategic coordinator for the entire operation. Her job was to plan the defense of the galaxy against the coming invasion. The Devourers rely on overwhelming force, Na-young explained. They send massive fleets that destroy everything in their path, but massive fleets are vulnerable to attacks they can't see coming. What's your strategy? So-young asked. We let them enter the galaxy, Na-young replied calmly. We allow them to think they're facing conventional resistance from standard civilizations. Then, when they're committed to their attack patterns, we reveal our true capabilities. That sounds dangerous, Jin-ae said, her skin flickering with worried colors. It is dangerous, Na-young admitted, but it's the only way to ensure complete victory. If we reveal our abilities too early, they might adapt or retreat to gather more forces. We need to destroy this invasion fleet completely so that no information gets back to their main civilization. How do you know they won't adapt during the battle? Hyun-woo asked. Because they've never encountered anything like us before, Jae-hyun answered. The Devourers have been using the same tactics for millions of years. They're not designed to handle rapid tactical innovation. But humans are, Luna added with a slight smile. Na-young activated a holographic display that showed the entire galaxy. Red indicators marked the expected approach routes of the Devourer invasion fleet. Blue indicators showed the positions of hidden human forces throughout the galaxy. We've been placing assets in every sector for decades, Na-young explained. Not just military forces, but entire support networks. When the invasion begins, we'll be able to coordinate the defense from thousands of hidden positions. What about the other galactic civilizations? So-young asked. How do they fit into your plans? That depends on how they respond to your report, Na-young replied. Ideally, they'll accept evacuation to protected dimensions until the fighting is over. If they insist on participating in the defense, we can coordinate their efforts to maximize effectiveness. And if they refuse to cooperate? Then we protect them anyway, Jae-hyun said firmly. But it will cost more lives, both human and alien. The display changed to show evacuation scenarios. Human technology could create pocket dimensions large, enough to house the entire populations of multiple civilizations. These dimensions would be completely safe from Devourer weapons, allowing billions of beings to survive the war. We've already prepared refugee dimensions for every major species, Na-young explained. Each one is customized for the specific environmental needs of its inhabitants. They'll be comfortable there for as long as necessary. How long do you expect the war to last? Captain Dongwoo asked. If everything goes according to plan, no more than a few months, Jae-hyun replied. The key is to destroy the invasion fleet quickly and completely before they can send word back to their main civilization. What if things don't go according to plan? Jin-ae asked. The humans exchanged glances. When Na-young spoke, her voice was completely serious. Then we escalate to measures we'd prefer not to use. We have weapons that can destroy entire star systems, technologies that can rewrite the laws of physics in local space, and strategies that would fundamentally alter the nature of our galaxy. But you'd rather not use them? Because they would change us, Luna explained. Some technologies are too dangerous to use unless there's no alternative. They could save the galaxy but destroy what makes us human in the process. The crew stood, quietly, absorbing the weight of what they were hearing. Humanity had prepared not just one plan to save the galaxy, but multiple plans of increasing extremity. They were willing to sacrifice their own nature if necessary to protect other species. Why are you willing to do this for us? So-young asked. Why risk so much for civilizations that ignored you for 2 centuries? Because that's what intelligence is for, Jae-hyun replied. The ability to understand that your survival depends on the survival of others. If the galaxy dies, we die with it. Besides, Na-young added, we like having neighbors. The universe is a big, cold place. It's better when it's full of different kinds of life. Even if some of that life doesn't like us very much, Luna said, with a sad smile. They walked through more sections of the facility, seeing preparations that spanned every conceivable aspect of galactic warfare. There were departments working on post-war reconstruction, teams preparing to help traumatized civilizations recover from the invasion, and groups planning how to share advanced technology safely with other species. You're planning for after the victory, Hyunwoo observed. Of course, Na-young replied. Winning the war is just the beginning. We want to build a galaxy that's better than what existed before. A galaxy where civilizations work together instead of remaining isolated. A galaxy where threats like the Devourers can never succeed again, Jae-hyun added. As they reached the end of their tour, So-young felt overwhelmed by everything she had learned. Humanity wasn't just preparing to defend the galaxy, they were preparing to transform it into something stronger, safer, and more united than it had ever been. When do we need to return to the council? She asked. Soon, Luna replied. The first major Devourer probes will arrive within the year. We need the council's decision before then. What if they don't believe us? Captain Dongwoo asked. Then we'll prove it to them, Jae-hyun said, grim. The journey back to Galactic Council headquarters felt different than the trip out. The crew of Harmony's call traveled in tense silence, each member processing what they had learned. When they reached the edge of human space, their communication systems suddenly came back online, flooding them with messages from across the galaxy. So-young spent the remaining journey preparing her presentation. How do you convince ancient, proud civilizations that a species they considered primitive had been secretly protecting them for 2 centuries? How do you make them believe that an invasion beyond imagination was approaching? The council chamber was packed when she arrived. Word had spread that the human contact mission had returned with important information. Representatives from every major civilization filled the massive dome, their various forms creating a symphony of colors, shapes, and energy patterns. Taemin and Yunbi met her at the entrance. How did it go? Taemin asked quietly. Better and worse than we could have imagined, So-young replied. Is the recording system ready? Everything you need is prepared, Yunbi confirmed. But So-young, some of the council members are already skeptical. There are rumors that the humans somehow tricked you or used technology to create false impressions. So-young nodded grimly. She had expected this response. Then we'll let the evidence speak for itself. She took her position at the central podium and activated the display system. The holographic projectors filled the air above the chamber with images from their journey into human space. Honored members of the council, she began. What I'm about to tell you will change everything we thought we knew about our galaxy and our place in it. The first images showed the approach to human space, with sensor readings indicating the massive modifications to space-time itself. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as the representatives saw the scale of the alterations. The humans have not been hiding from us, So-young continued. They have been protecting us. For 200 years, they have been preparing for a threat that most of us have never heard of. She showed them the images of the Devourers, the destroyed galaxies, the pattern of consumption moving across the universe. The chamber grew quiet as the representatives absorbed the implications. A Vorthak delegate's crystalline body chimed with skeptical notes. How do we know these images are real? How do we know the humans haven't fabricated this threat to justify their isolation? Before So-young could answer, every screen in the chamber flickered. New data began streaming in from the galaxy's outer rim monitoring stations. Alarms started sounding as automated systems detected something approaching from deep space. What's happening? Demanded a Malari representative, its aquatic form rippling with agitation. Young Sik's voice filled the chamber, broadcast from somewhere in human space. Honored council members, this is Fleet Commander Young Sik of the Human Defense Force. The first major Devourer probe fleet has just entered our galaxy. They will reach the outer colonies in approximately 6 hours. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions, demanded explanations, and argued among themselves. Some accused the humans of staging the entire crisis. You want proof? Young Sik's voice continued calmly. Watch your sensors. and watch what happens when they encounter human forces. The main display changed to show real-time sensor feeds from the galaxy's edge. The probe fleet was massive, hundreds of the dark angular ships that the crew had seen in human recordings. They moved in perfect formation, spreading out to cover multiple approach vectors. Those ships match the images exactly, Wu Jin confirmed from his position near the sensor station. Energy signatures, hull configurations, movement patterns. Everything matches what the humans showed us. But how do we know the humans aren't controlling them? Demanded a luminant representative, its glow pulsing with suspicion. The answer came as they watched. Human ships began appearing near the probe fleet, but these vessels were unlike anything in the galactic database. They flickered in and out of existence, appeared inside the enemy formation, and fired weapons that seemed to bend space itself. The battle was unlike anything the Council had ever witnessed. Human vessels phased through devourer attacks as if they were made of light. Their weapons struck from impossible angles, bypassing shields and armor entirely. Most remarkably, they seemed to be fighting in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "The human ships are engaging targets that we can't even detect," reported a technician monitoring the feeds. "Our sensors show them firing at empty space, but the devourer ships are taking damage. They're fighting in folded dimensions." So Young explained. "The humans can attack through realities that the devourers can't defend against." Within an hour, the entire probe fleet had been either destroyed or captured. The human ships had suffered no losses and sustained no visible damage. They had won a complete victory against an enemy that had supposedly been destroying galaxies for millions of years. "Impossible," whispered a Vorthak delegate. "How can a primitive species defeat such advanced enemies?" "Because they're not primitive," Taemin said, rising from his seat. "They're the most advanced civilization any of us have ever encountered. They've been letting us think otherwise to protect us from panic." Ji-hoon's voice joined the broadcast from the human fleet. "Council members, we've captured several intact devourer vessels and their crews. We're transmitting the data we've gathered about their technology, their origins, and their intentions. You'll find it confirms everything. Ambassador So Young has told you, the data streams began flowing into the Council's computers. Within minutes, xenobiologists and military analysts throughout the chamber were confirming the worst fears. The devourers were real, they were incredibly dangerous, and they were coming in force." "When will the main invasion arrive?" asked the senior Malari delegate. 37 years, Young Sik replied. "Possibly sooner if they detect that their probe fleet has been eliminated. We're working to prevent any signals from reaching their main force." "What do you need from us?" So Young asked, speaking for the Council. "Trust," came Luna's voice from human space. "We need you to trust us to protect you. We need civilizations to accept evacuation to safe dimensions during the fighting. Most importantly, we need you to understand that everything we've done has been to save as many lives as possible." The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some representatives argued for immediate integration with human defense plans. Others demanded more proof, more explanations, more guarantees. A few still insisted that the humans were somehow manipulating the situation for their own benefit. Finally, Taemin stood and called for quiet. "I have one question for the humans," he announced. "If we refuse your protection, if we insist on fighting this invasion with our own forces using our own strategies, what will you do?" There was a long pause before Luna answered. When she spoke, her voice carried infinite sadness and infinite determination. "We'll protect you anyway. We'll place our forces between your worlds and the enemy. We'll fight harder to compensate for strategic mistakes. We'll accept higher casualties to shield civilizations that won't accept our shelter, because that's what we chose to become. Guardians, whether you want us or not." "Why?" asked a luminant delegate, its glow soft with wonder. "Why sacrifice so much for species that have ignored you, dismissed you, even insulted you?" "Because intelligence carries responsibility," replied Jae-hyun. "When you have the power to save lives, you use it. When you have the knowledge to prevent suffering, you act on it. When you have the strength to protect the weak, you become a shield. Even if it costs you everything." "Especially then," Young Sik said simply. The chamber fell silent as representatives absorbed this statement. Here was a civilization that had transcended not just technological limitations, but the selfishness that plagued most intelligent species. They had chosen to become something greater than themselves. "The vote is clear," announced the senior council member, a being so ancient that its species' name had been forgotten. "The Galactic Council accepts human protection during the coming crisis. We place our trust in their guardianship." The vote wasn't unanimous, but it was decisive. Most civilizations chose to trust the humans rather than face the devourers alone. Over the following months, the evacuation began. Human technology created pocket dimensions customized for each species' needs. Entire populations were relocated to safety, while their homeworlds were prepared for battle. Some civilizations insisted on participating in the defense. Human strategists worked with them to maximize their effectiveness while minimizing casualties. Others chose complete evacuation, trusting humanity to preserve their worlds. When the main Devourer invasion arrived 34 years later, they found a galaxy that was ready for them. Human fleets emerged from folded space to engage the enemy, in dimensions they couldn't perceive. Weapons that rewrote local physics turned Devourer advantages into weaknesses. Strategies developed over centuries of secret preparation countered tactics that had worked for millions of years. The war lasted 6 months. When it ended, not a single Devourer ship remained functional, and no signal had escaped to warn their distant civilization. The invasion fleet that had destroyed 47 galaxies was completely eliminated, but the real victory came afterward. As civilizations emerged from their